Okay, and so our first presentation is going to be from Heater Guevara with Zero Waste Mendo. You might want to consider going to speaker view so you see her screen primarily. I think she's going to be sharing some of her slides. So Heather, off to you. She's trying to unmute herself. There we go.
I was just sharing my screen. Okay. So hello everybody, my name is Heater Guevara from Zero Waste Mendo. I started Zero Waste Mendo in order to teach people how to reduce their waste in general, reduce their footprint, their carbon footprint in everyday life really. And the impact isn't just, you know, at your home and where you see less waste, it's the entire chain of events, and I'll explain what that means to you. So what is zero waste? Zero waste is basically a philosophy that encourages the redesign of resource life cycles so that all products are reused. So it's revamping our entire cycle of products, how we design them, how we make them, what material goes into them, and then how do we actually reuse them? Can we reuse them, or are they, you know, right now we're in a disposable economy, so we're just throwing all of our resources away. Whereas with a zero waste perspective, you're actually trying to make the products with materials that can be reused, or make them in a way that can be reused or fixed. So Zero Waste Mendo, we have a Facebook page. We have one in English, one in Spanish. The Spanish one is Residuo Zero Mendo. And it's basically a resource for the community, Mendocino County and beyond, in order to learn different ways of reducing your waste and repurposing things, reusing things, trying new things, making your own products, you know, whatever it happens to be. We also do what we did until the shelter in place, but in-home commercial municipal consultations as well to help people buy more sustainable products, you know, waste less, compost properly, recycle properly. We also have been working with the county and the city of Fort Bragg. We've had a contract with them, which is halted at the moment, but we hope to be able to finish that. And it's an education program basically to teach people how to compost properly, recycle properly, and overall reduce your waste. So we do a lot of the public outreach piece of it. That's pretty much why we do the consultations as well, is just to fund us doing a lot of the public outreach that we do. We do booths. I do presentations like this all around. We were doing home tours until the COVID thing happened. I'm hoping that will come back at some point in time. So at our home, we have all edible landscaping. We have electric vehicles. We do zero waste all throughout our home. We have solar panels. We have instant water heaters, chickens, greenhouse, all the whole thing, you know, the whole 9 yards, but we're right in the middle of town. And that's what we try to teach people, is that you can do these things and you don't have to have 20 acres. You can do it right in the middle of town in a small space. So the idea of zero waste is that right now we are in a linear economy versus a circular economy. Right now it's basically material extraction, so extraction to disposal. And if you see, you know, in the line here, I'm going to walk you through very quickly just a coffee cup with a lid. So that is a disposable coffee cup. That disposable coffee cup has a petroleum lining. So you have to extract that petroleum out of the oil, out of the ground. It is a paper cup, so you have to cut down trees to make the paper. And then it has that plastic lid, so that's more petroleum you have to dig up. If there's any ink on it, any writing on it, then whatever the ink is made of, you have to go and, you know, maybe it's a soy-based ink. Then you have to go grow soybeans and harvest soybeans. So that's the extraction piece of it. Then you have the transportation. Transportation from extraction to manufacturing. They bring it to the factory to actually process the product, mill the paper, or mill the trees into paper, mill the, make the ink, process the oil into the little, plastic pellets. And then they probably have another transportation section. They put it on another truck, and then it goes to the actual facility or building that's making the lids, that's making the cups. And then they package it, right? All of these stages have packaging as well. The packaging, you have, like whether it's plastic or paper, has to go back to the extraction. You have to extract the more paper or more trees. You have to extract more oil to make the packaging. And so then they send it, once they make the cups, more transportation to the distribution center, where they package it even more with more plastic, more paper. And then they distribute it, which is more transportation. So then they distribute it over to, instead of a warehouse, to the grocery stores. Then we drive to the grocery stores, or whatever type of store it is. We pick up that product or those cups. We go to Starbucks. We go to our local, cafe. We get that disposable coffee cup. And then we drive home with it, or we drive back to the office with it, whatnot, right? We use it, and then we dispose of it. So we may use that coffee cup for an hour or so, maybe a little bit longer. For some people, if they're really tired, in 10 minutes. And then we dispose of it. So where do we dispose of it? We dispose of it wherever we are. And it could be, actually, all coffee cups right now, all disposable coffee cups, unless they're made out of coffee, are actually going into the trash can because of, at least in Mendocino County, because of the lining. The petroleum lining, they don't want that in the compost. And if it's a bioplastic lining, our local composter doesn't take bioplastics, which means even if it says it's earth-friendly compostable, it means it has bioplastics in it and it can't be composted. And so that goes into the trash. So we throw it into the trash can, and then another truck drives to our home or our office, picks it up, drives it back to their facility, dumps it until they have a large enough load to transport it somewhere else, where they pack it all up with more, usually wire. So that's another thing, right? Go back to extraction to actually dig up all the raw steel and process it. And then they have to ship it, again, to somebody that actually is going to recycle the product, maybe, or they ship it to a landfill. So that's more transportation. So that is a really, really long explanation, but that sets the stage for every single consumption choice that we make daily, which is hundreds. Maybe now that we're home, it's a little bit less, but it's hundreds of consumption choices that we make daily, and that's the impact of one disposable coffee cup. So think about how many things that we consume daily, and from extraction to disposal, that is the life cycle of that product. It's not just we buy it from the store and then we dispose of it at home. That's not the entire life cycle of that product. So that's how we're throwing away our resources. So the idea of zero waste is redesigning and creating that circular use that we think we have right now, but we really don't with the whole recycling crisis. And so it's about designing and manufacturing things with products that we can actually recycle. We can use them, we can repair them, we can recover them in a way that will actually make them reusable. And then we redesign them, manufacture them again, and it stays, our resources that we're pulling from the ground, really, that's what we're doing, actually stays in use. So the 6 R's of zero waste. I need to update this. I'm going to add a 7th R. So starting from the top, it's refuse, reduce, reuse, repair, recycle, rot. And then I'm adding respond at the end. So I do have a note. I hope I remember. If I don't remember, can somebody please remind me? I want to talk about respond at the end. And I will go through this quickly so we make sure we have enough time. So just some benefits of zero waste, more jobs. It creates more jobs than the disposal linear economy. It reduces our climate impact. It redirects our resources to those in need in the community. And it conserves our resources and minimizes our pollution. There was a lot of transportation in that meant extraction to disposal. So transportation is a huge piece to climate change right now. You also save money, and it's just a healthier way of living in general. So refuse. Just say no. Learn to say no. Pick one thing and just say, hey, I'm going to say no to junk mail today. I'm going to call the number that they actually want me to call, and I'm going to call it and say, get me off of your mailing list. And then you'll start receiving less junk mail, which means they've cut down less trees, and there's extraction to disposal. There's less waste in general there. There's less climate impact just because you called those numbers and got off that list. Say no to freebies, no to single-use plastics if you can. Opt for glass, opt for metal. Food packaging, if you can, either make it yourself or go on the outside of the store where the fresh foods are. Right now, a lot of things are in packaging. We can't go and buy things in bulk as often. Hopefully that will go away and we'll go back to less food packaging. As for now, do your best with making your own foods as much as you can. So no to disposable items, switch to reusable. And just things you don't need. Do you really need to buy that? This is our to-go set. Right now we can't use that, but when we get back to it, we basically have a bag that we keep in our car, and it has our own Tupperware, it has our own napkins, cloth napkins, utensils, chopsticks, straw, everything we need so that when we go either into a sit-down restaurant or we go to a takeout place, we have our own everything, and so we don't create waste as we travel. Reduce, donate, sell items. Are there any questions? Just no questions?
No.
Okay. So reduce, donate, sell items that you don't need anymore or you don't use. It saves your time, space, and sanity. Less organizing, less cleaning up. Wait 30 days before buying something new. Create household rules. Everything has a home, and then one thing in and one thing out. I have a specific place right next to my front door. If something comes in that's not mine or that needs to go out, I put it right at the door. And then when I walk out, I take it and I put it in the car, and then I get it out of the house and I go, put it where it goes. That seems to work for us. And just simplifying in general. And reducing can have health benefits. Less dust to clean for me because I have allergies. So reducing is also self-sustainability. So your solar panels, maybe making your own biodiesel or just switching to maybe regenerative diesel like we have. Trying to get a biodiesel or natural gas generator, battery backup system, solar water heating, residential wind power. When the power went out, we had power. People were coming to our house to charge their phones and stuff like that. And you don't need a lot to be able to have that. And you can buy things used as well. Growing your own food, shelf-stable foods. So many people lost a lot of their frozen foods because they didn't have power. This is just one of the years of our garden. That's our little girl with our onions, part of our onion harvest. Just some fun pictures. So reducing also means reducing your water usage. Instant water heaters, bath sink aerators, low-flow shower heads, dual-flush toilets, efficient dishwashers and washing machines. All these different things will start to save water throughout your home. Drip systems on your gardens, gray water systems. And then we threw this one in there just because, overall it is a large water consumption. So reducing your beef consumption or getting grass-fed beef, because 1 pound of beef uses 614 gallons of water. And that's, from the grain that they have to grow in order to feed the cow, and then the processing of the actual beef. So there's a lot of water consumption in that. Reuse, so replacing disposables with reusables, buying secondhand, craft time, just keep, odds and ends and just think of new ways you can do things with your kids or donate to artists. In our group, actually, on Facebook, people are donating things all the time. Oh, hey, do you need this? Or, hey, does anybody have this? And it's great. Donate items for reuse and get creative and think, there is no box. There really is no box. We create our own box. This is a picture of our refrigerator. It's much fuller now because we're eating at home so much. But you can see most of these things are reusable or glass or refillable. Like we have a growler at the bottom right-hand corner, and we fill that with beer. This is our pantry. There aren't any plastic bags in there. There are a few cans down there. There's a glass jar of mayonnaise. I do buy a large thing of coconut, and it is in plastic. We reuse the containers. But all of these things I bought in bulk or made myself. So repairing, find someone to repair, learn how to repair, buy items that can be repaired, or donate to a charity that can repair things. I bought a pair of boots. They're a little bit more expensive, but now I don't have to buy boots ever again because they can be resold. That's one of the big things with shoes, is that we just toss them. Or find someone that wants to, recycle them into something else. That's my husband putting an electric motor into an '89 Ranger. So recycle what you can't refuse, reduce, reuse, or repair. So, and upcycle as much as possible. So plastic is downcycled. That means that it degrades. Each time they recycle it into a different product, it degrades. And so it can only be recycled 2 to 3 times before it goes into the landfill. So try to upcycle it, reuse it for another purpose that will keep it around longer, because it is going to last in our environment forever. Learn what is actually being recycled. That's actually on my list of things to do. I have a post that I'm going to be posting on Zero Waste Mendo that will be what is actually getting recycled in the county right now and what isn't. And that will be extremely helpful. Reduce. Yes.
Heather, can I interrupt for a second? We have a question from the chat, and Maureen was asking, what do you use to bring your bulk items home in? I'm thinking of rice, oats, etc.
So different people do it different ways. Some people sew up their own bags that are the exact amount that their container at home that they put them in. It fits the exact amount. That way they don't have that little overage. Some people just go and buy, we have bags that we sell, people just go online and buy some, just cloth bags, and they fill them up that way. I don't like that method. I actually just take my container. I have one spot on my counter, and when my container's empty, I put it on the counter. When I have a few things that I need to go get, I go to the store. I literally just have my container that holds my oats or that holds my rice. I fill it up, I tear it, I fill it up, and then I bring it home and I put it back in the cabinet. So I don't have any bags to deal with. I don't have anything else. I just have one container, I fill up, and I put back in the cabinet. It actually makes it so much easier for me. Some people don't like that. They don't want to carry around big, containers, so they use bags. So glass. So reduce your recyclables. So it's not about recycling more. I tell people all the time what I do, and they're like, oh yeah, I recycle. It's not about recycling, because we're still doing the extraction to disposal. We're still pulling out virgin oil and making these plastics that we think are getting recycled, or the glass or the metal or whatnot. We're still pulling these things out of the earth and then hopefully recycling them. But we're still using those resources. So what's the good in recycling if we're still using all of our resources? So the point is reduce your recyclables altogether. Reduce buying the things that have packaging that, that are recyclable. So yes, obviously buy things that are in packaging that is recyclable, but like my mustard, I make my own mustard. It takes me 10 minutes. And I think I just made a batch that was like four pints, like 4 pint size. So I made 8 cups, I think. I have 3 in the freezer and I have 1 in the fridge, and it's going to last, I don't know how long that mustard's going to last, a really long time. But it cost very little, and it was very little time to make it. And now I'm not buying jars. I'm not recycling those jars. Those lids aren't going to the trash. So it's going through and finding one thing at a time, doing a trash audit and finding one thing at a time in your trash or your recycle. Hey, how can I get rid of this? Or how can I switch this plastic to glass? Different things like that. Yes.
Another question from the audience here, and that is, can tea cans like Republic of Tea kind of cans be recycled?
If they are metal, yes, they can. I opt to reuse them. I have a few, and I go and I buy the teas in bulk. Or you can, make your own teas. But yes, I think they should be able to if they're all metal.
And then there's also a question, where do you recycle worn out clothing, or do you mean to use it for other purposes?
So you can use it for other purposes. A lot of the bags that, oh, my neighbor's coming to the door. I'm sorry. I have to get my husband on that. I'm going to just mute myself so I can yell at my husband. Hang on. I'm sorry. So sorry. That's the problem with doing this at home. So worn out clothing, yeah. So we've used worn out clothing to actually make bags. So like produce bags and oats, rice bags, stuff like that. You can use it for so many different purposes. Or what you can do is look. Unfortunately, it's on my list of things to do. Getting some of those recycle bins, those clothing recycle bins here locally. The closest ones that I know of are in Santa Rosa. So, when you happen to go to the Bay Area, when you know somebody that's going to the Bay Area or something, see if they can drop them off in one of those bins. That's my suggestion on that one.
Heather, you're down to about just a couple minutes here, another three minutes or so.
Okay, I will hurry up. Oh, I have to get my computer to work. There we go. So rotting, composting. Composting is huge. When we throw our food into the landfill, it off-gasses methane. It off-gasses more methane, which is 80 times more potent than carbon. And so the problem with that is that, or carbon dioxide, I always get that mixed up. And so it's more potent than that. And that means that when we actually compost our food scraps or soiled unlined paper products, things like that, yard waste, pizza boxes, when you actually compost them, then it reduces the amount of methane that's released. And then you're creating soil that can feed plants that can trap carbon dioxide into the soil and trap it and create oxygen for us and food, hopefully. So the idea of composting is huge. There's a new bill, it's SB 1383, that they want a 50% diversion rate by this year, and then by 2022, they want 75% diversion rate. By 2024 or 5, depending upon what you look at, we need to actually, our municipalities, the different jurisdictions have to actually enforce composting, enforce using the green bins. So you're going to see a lot more green bin usage coming down the line. Thanks for more chickens. This is just a quick overview, quick summary. So I'll just skip that. These are just some of our projects. Just 2 quick questions to think about. What's one habit that you feel comfortable starting to shift? What's one waste reduction dream you have for your town, no matter how far-fetched it may seem? The last thing I wanted to say was the other R, respond. is really respond, really think about it. How can you do this in your home, your office, your school, your community? What can you do to make a change? Because every drop in the bucket makes a difference, because there are millions of people around the world doing this. And we don't need a handful of people doing zero waste perfectly. We need millions of people doing it imperfectly.
Thank you, Heather. That was awesome. You got a moment, turn yourself on, show her a little love. We are gonna need to just keep moving on pretty quickly here. Thank you.
I'd like to make
yeah, Sonia.
I'd like to make one quick plug. Heather, you said that the Terra or Tetracycle, you have a drop-off zone in Fort Bragg. Could you tell us about that real quick?
That was the other thing I was going to mention, but I ran out of time. So what we're doing is we're creating a TerraCycle location in Fort Bragg. I would like to create one in Ukiah as well, but until we get this up and running, we may just do like a mobile thing where we go once a month, kind of like Hazmat does. And so we haven't gotten it set up yet, but it'll be basically a storage unit that will have open at certain times. And certain days, and we signed up for several of the free programs that they have, the free recycling programs. So like your razors, if you use a disposable razor to shave, that's one of the things. Cigarette butts, all the packaging related to cigarettes, ashes, your plastic packaging, your box, your cigarette butts. If you do beach cleanups, anything like that, or park cleanups and you pick up cigarette butts, those can be recycled. So just random odd things that would normally go into the landfill and the trash will actually be recycled through the TerraCycle drop-off location we're creating.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Heather. Really appreciate the information you've got. Eric's holding up his hand. Eric, yeah?
Yeah, I have a quick question for Heather. Can you hear me?
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, well, since I'm next, I can go into my own time.
Okay.
About plastic bags. So in Ukiah here, as far as collection sites for plastic bags, the only one that I know of is at Friedman Brothers, and that's kind of the big local Home Depot. They have a place there for batteries and for plastic bags. And I've always wondered what they do with all those plastic bags that they collect there. Do they have some magical place where, there's finally a home for used plastic bags? Or I wonder if they just provide a collection spot that ultimately goes into the trash, like you do with your gray bin. That you can't recycle plastic bags; they just go into the waste stream. Do you have any idea what the collection sites? I think Safeway maybe has a plastic bag collection site as well. What happens to them?
Usually they go to Trex Trex, which is a type of decking. Excuse me. They also make like benches and stuff like that. So they use all that plastic film packaging for that. You want to make sure though that, whoever like Friedman's or Home Depot or whatnot are like part of that program, or ask them, ask the management, where does this go? But usually that's where it's going. And that's why I like TerraCycle, because they have an end user. They've closed that loop. And they have an end user of the products they're actually collecting. That's going to they're going to turn it into something else.
Cool, great. And that's plastic bags themselves.
Plastic bags, plastic film, stuff like that, yeah.
Okay, great. All right, thank you. Always wondered about that.
Okay, so Eric's giving us a transition into the next talk. It's Eric's talk on Back to Biking 101. Eric and I both work for Walk and Bike Mendocino, and we find that oftentimes people, we talk to people about the classes we have on how to ride and how to ride safely, and people go, oh, well, I know how to ride a bike. And the interesting thing is then after we talk to them, they say, yeah, but I'm afraid to ride a bike and I don't ride my bike. And so the interesting thing about Eric's a League of American Cyclists certified trainer, and he's able to give a lot of tips that show you not just how to ride a bike, but how to ride a bike safely so that you feel comfortable while you're riding and can make bike riding a part of your daily transportation choices. And it's a great way to have impact on on climate change by just skipping a few vehicle trips. So Eric, why don't you take over from here and tell us how do we make a difference by giving up our car and riding our bikes?
Okay. I don't know if I'll talk about that so much. I'm going to stick with the basics for those that want to just get back on their bikes, ideally get back on their bikes with their kids or their young riders. So real quick, if there's anything I need to do, can you let me know, Neil, as far as, I mean, I think I'm good. Everybody sees me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And hears me okay? I'm curious, can you read the banner behind me? The tips for the road. I've got it on one of my slides, but I'm wondering if people can read it.
Yeah. Yeah, if they go to the speaker view, they can.
Oh, okay. Okay, great. Good. Okay, so my name's Eric. I'm with Walk and Bike Mendocino. I'll give you a brief introduction in just a minute and a little bit of background, but I wanted to just real quick throw a few things out there. First, happy belated Earth Day to everybody, and thank you to everybody who put this together, especially Sonia, who also works with us at Walk and Bike Mendocino, and I know Neil and Hannah both put a lot of time and energy in to make this happen. Right now, I'm seeing a presenter evaluation. Do I just click out of that?
Yeah, you can click by that.
Yeah,
that's
okay.
that's for
All
Heather's
right,
presentation.
Oh, and well, that's perfect. That was the next thing. Heather, thanks for doing that. That's a tough act to follow. I'll do my best to do bike and traffic safety digitally here in 15 or 20 minutes. Hannah, I don't know if you saw it, but Hannah put something in the chat when you were showing us your fridge and your pantry. And I agree that that's a fridge and a pantry to aspire to for sure. So thanks for sharing. And then the last thing I wanted to throw out there is if there's anybody that's tuned in right now that's thinking, you know, they might skip this session. They already know how to, like Neil said, they already know how to ride a bike. They've already taught their kids how to ride a bike, or grandkids or siblings. They're good. They'll skip this session and come back later. Hold on, don't go anywhere. It is something that we run into quite a bit over the years, especially with adults. So at Walk Bike Mendocino, we have an adult bike safety class, and we also offer a youth bike and traffic safety program. It's primarily designed for fourth and fifth graders, and we offer it in 3 or 4 sessions in their schools. It takes about an hour for each session. But especially with those adult classes, in all honesty, we sometimes have a hard time filling all the seats. And I think part of the reason for that, is like Neil said, people look at the class or they look at the class description and they think, well, I already know how to ride a bike. I've already taught my kids how to ride a bike. You know, I know how to fix a flat. I'm good. When we're in schools with the fourth and fifth graders, during that first session, a lot of times hands go up, and it's the same thing from the kids. I already know how to ride a bike. What am I going to get out of this? So our answer to that is, and that's great that you know how to ride a bike. We assume that most adults know how to ride a bike. Nowadays, most fourth and fifth graders, not all, but most fourth and fifth graders know how to ride a bike. We're not here to do that. We're here to teach you how to ride your bike, how to ride it better, how to ride it safer, maybe even ride it a little faster, certainly more efficiently around town, and have more fun doing it. Our mission, our focus at Walk and Bike Mendocino is to get more young riders riding their bikes to school and filling up those often empty bike racks. Not to necessarily get them out to the local BMX track. That's great if they want to do that. But we just want to see more kids on bikes riding around town. Same with adults. We're not trying to get them on a road bike and so they can train and do a long century or become a middle-aged racer. We just want to see them, you know, maybe commuting to work once or twice a week. Better yet, parents riding with their sons and daughters to school, filling up the bike rack at school, and then commuting on to their job, even if it's once or twice a week. But like Neil said many times over the years, especially talking to adults, when I'm trying to convince them to sign up for our class, I'll hear that, you know, I already know how to ride a bike. kid knows how to ride a bike, but I never let him ride to school. It's crazy out there. I don't even feel comfortable riding to work. So it's that kind of disconnect between people that already know how to ride bikes, or kids that already know how to ride bikes, but don't feel comfortable riding to school or riding to work, or just riding around town, to the park, to the store. You can shop with your bike. I shop with my bike all the time. Using your bike as transportation and just a means to get around town. We're trying to kind of fill that void. So that's the intent of our program. I do have a short PowerPoint, and I'll try to go back and forth a few times. I have the basics that I want to go over, and the takeaway stuff is the stuff on the banner. And that's what we always tell anybody who's in our programs or our classes. What we want you to go home with is the stuff on the banner. It's simple, it's basic, but if everybody did this, if all cyclists did this, I think things would work. In fact, I know things would work a little bit better out there on the road. So let me try to share my screen now. What do I need to do that?
Scroll over the bottom of it. It
Where it
should
says share
press the green
screen.
button.
Bear with me.
No pressure.
Not feeling it. Yeah, I can't get, trying to just close this out. Okay, can you see my PowerPoint?
No.
No?
No.
What do you see right now?
You?
Me?
Yeah.
Go back to you.
Click on it.
Oh, she's got a coach. He's got a coach.
Scoot that back up. A little tech support.
You should be able to just kind of scroll over the bottom of the screen, and if you press on the green button that says share, you may then have to choose which screen if you have multiple. There we go.
Okay, now?
Yeah, you're good.
All right. Whew. They're listening in the other room, so that was good. Okay, so I've got a few slides, and I'll try to go back and forth. we're calling this Back to Biking 101. I'm Eric with Walk and Bike Mendocino. That's a picture of my son Samuel on the left, and this was taken just last weekend. He and I rode our bikes from here in Ukiah all the way up to the top of Ore Springs Road. About a 12-mile ride with a 6-mile climb. It's just a great example of the fun that he and I have had over the years. And all the memories we've created just simply by riding our bikes and going to the places that it takes us. So I had to brag a little bit about that. He's 11 and he's on a mountain bike. So that was a big ride for him. It was just a whole lot of fun. So my background is I've been riding a bike regularly. Bikes have been a big part of my life since I was 8 years old. And my brother taught me how to ride an orange Huffy that looked just like this. Unfortunately, this picture is not a picture. I don't have that bike anymore. But if this bike had a black banana seat instead of a red one, that would have been my bike. And it's kind of fun to start with that because it's neat to get people to think about their first bike, where they were when they learned how to ride a bike, who taught them how to ride a bike. Those are all, for most of us, we've all done that. Those are all shared memories. They're good memories. And then, to also think about as a kid, that sense of freedom that bikes gave you, especially when you could finally ride to the end of the street or around the block, or better yet, ride with your friends over to 7-Eleven. So that, that first sense of freedom and the fun and the fitness that bikes gave us as kids, that's still available to us. And at Walk Bike Mendocino, we're trying to get more people back into that. So if we had a little more time, I'd ask you guys to share some of your first bikes or who taught you how to ride them. But maybe if there's time at the end, we could share those, some of those memories. So since I learned how to ride that orange Huffy, bikes have been a big part of my life. It was my primary means of transportation throughout high school and into college at Humboldt State. After I left college, I got away from it for a little while, and then back in my 30s, I got back into it big time, started buying bikes, started training, did a little bit of racing, lots of charity rides, centuries, that sort of thing. Got my wife into it as much as I could. She rides with us on weekends. My son, when he was born, he never really had a chance. He was going to be a bike rider whether he wanted to or not. But at 11, he's done things and he's been places around the county that few kids and even few adults have. So we made a lot of memories, again, just by riding our bikes. But what I'm most proud of is for the last 8 years, I've been teaching bike and traffic safety to children and adults through Walk Bike Mendocino. And in that time, a bike has once again become my primary means of transportation. So I commute to work anywhere from 2 to 5 days a week when we're not in the middle of a pandemic. Excuse me. That includes a couple commutes out to Redwood Valley and back. So it's not just a down the street, around the corner ride. But, you know, I love it. I look forward to it. It's just a big part of my life. This is a picture here of every Wednesday morning, again, when school's in session. My son's on the far right there. We do either a walking school bus or a riding school bus where we pick up kids throughout the neighborhood and we all ride in together. It's a great way to start the day. The kids have a lot of fun. They look forward to it. And it gives me a chance every Wednesday morning. I mean, we're out there on the road. We're riding up to the school. We're sharing the road with parents dropping off their kids that are in a hurry to get to work, that are stressed out. So we're out there in traffic, and it's a great chance for me to give them some tips and go over some bike safety. So I have a whole lot of fun doing that. I've mentioned several times about this youth program that we offer, and that's kind of our flagship program. We do offer adult classes. They're usually 1 to 2 hours. In all honesty, we've struggled to get people to sign up and turn out for those classes sometimes. But probably our flagship program is our youth program, designed for 4th and 5th graders. We do it 3 to 4 times in school. This is a picture of that program on the blacktop at Frank Zeke Elementary. We've done it all over the county. We've been at Dana Gray multiple times, been as far north as Laytonville, Willett, and we've been at every elementary school in Ukiah, almost every elementary school, multiple times. So it is kind of our flagship program. One thing about that, and somebody can, I don't have my phone. How much time do I have, Neil?
Yeah, you're at 11:47.
Okay. I will get to some safety tips here in just a second, but I want to let everybody know that's our safety program and our classes. It's not the world according to the cycling world according to Eric. It's not even the cycling or bike safety according to Walk Bike Mendocino. We put this program together, Neil and I and Sonia and others, but it's based on kind of the content and curriculum all comes from the League of American Bicyclists, and they're an important organization. They're the only nationwide organization that advocates on behalf of cyclists, meaning they lobby, mainly on the federal level, on behalf of cyclists. And my end of it, education and training, they offer all sorts of videos, materials, classes, everything you could want, designed for both adult and younger riders. So I'm going to try to go back to me live. And what do I do? Unshare screen?
Yeah.
Now it's just me?
Yep.
Okay.
Success.
So the programs we've developed have come from the League of American Bicyclists and their best practices. Their flagship class is a 9-hour class designed primarily for adults called Traffic Safety 101. And I've taken that class twice, once in Sacramento, once in Redding, and then 8 years ago, went down to San Francisco and took a weekend-long seminar where they train the trainers or teach the teachers so that I could come and teach it. we have found that not a whole lot of people are willing to sign up for 9 hours of bike and traffic safety. So we've condensed it down, both for adults to try a 1 or 2 hour class, and then for our youth program, it's 3 to 4 hours, depending on the school that we're at. But you condense things down. You got to kind of stick with the basics. And the basics of our bike safety program, I tell it to adults, I definitely tell it to the 4th and 5th graders, is the banner. And if you can't read this, I've got it in a slide that I'll show you in just a second. But the takeaway, if you remember one thing, I tell it to 4th graders all the time, even adults, if you only remember one thing, or actually 5 things, make it these 5 things. Ride the same direction as traffic on the right side of the road. Stop at all stop signs. Be predictable. Don't ride like a squirrel. Use hand signals. Make eye contact, and always wear a helmet. Try to share my screen again. Sorry.
I know Neil's just taking a break, but anything I can do to help Eric, I'm here.
No, I think I got my tech support again.
Good
It's
to
a little wonky this time. I didn't have this problem yesterday, but.
That's okay.
Okay. All right, we're back. So there's the banner in case you couldn't read it. Here's the takeaway. This is what we want things to do, or this is what we want young riders to do. This is what we want adults to do. But if you're going to condense things down and say, here's 5 things that we want you to remember, and only 5 things, there needs to be a good reason for it. You know, in a 9-hour class, you can cover 50, you can cover 100 things. And we do. We go over gear and maintenance and all sorts of things. But in a 1-hour class, or even a 3 or 4 hour class with 4th graders, when you have 20 of them or sometimes 40 of them, you got to stick to the basics. So these are the basics. And I'll just touch on each one in a second. But there's a reason why the league and Walk Bike Mendocino have come up with these 5 things. If you're only going to tell people, remember these 5 things, there needs to be a good reason for it. So real quick, why do car-bike collisions, why do crashes happen? Parents that are a little leery of riding to their job, or are not comfortable turning their kids loose to ride to school. Everybody's worried about an accident. So let's look at some statistics real quick, and then armed with that knowledge, maybe we can build up our skills and our confidence, and everybody can get back out there on the road. If you look at statistics or the data compiled by the National Highway Transportation Safety Association, or by these professors, Kaplan and Moritz, they're professors back east somewhere, and they study traffic and infrastructure and transportation, and you know, they always dive into all these statistics. They have found that over the years, car-bike collisions happen. It's about a 50-50 deal, where 50% of the time the cyclist is primarily at fault, 50% of the time the motorist is at fault. And my data here and the stats I'll show you, it's a little dated. It's maybe 8 to 10 years old, but the stuff doesn't change year to year. If you look at, you know, vehicular accidents, it's the same there's the same leading causes of accidents every year, and it's the same with car-bike collisions. So 50% of the time the cyclist is at fault. We're totally in control of that. And we can do or not do a few things to pretty much take care of that 50%. So 14%, that's about 1 in 7. 1 in 7 collisions of all car-bike collisions are caused by cyclists riding on the wrong side of the road. So what's the first thing on our banner? Ride on the right side of the road, same direction as traffic. Do that, and you've eliminated the #1 cause of accidents where the cyclist is at fault. The next one I had to put together, the next 2 I put together a couple reasons, or a couple things cyclists do to cause accidents. 17% of the time it's running a stop sign or flying out the end of your driveway without looking. You put both those together and you get 17%, almost 1 in 5 of all accidents. Breaking that down a little further, it's about 50-50. Half the time it's stop signs, half the time it's running out of your driveway. So what's the second thing on our banner? Always stop at stop signs. Do those two things, right on the right side of the road, and always stop at stop signs, and you've eliminated the two main causes of collisions where the cyclist is at fault. Real quick, a thing about driveways, lots of parents teach their kids to ride on the sidewalk. I don't really get into this, especially in our youth program, because their parents have told them to ride on the sidewalk. But parents need to be aware that when you're teaching your kid to ride on the sidewalk, every driveway is an intersection, and many driveways are a blind intersection due to parked cars, traffic cans, bushes, trees, whatever. And those collisions that happen at the end of driveways, especially with young riders, statistically, they end up being major injury accidents. So the sidewalk is, maybe it's safer, maybe it's not, but if your young rider is zipping down the sidewalk, they really need to be aware, excuse me, of every driveway and people coming in and out of it. And then lastly, unpredictable behavior, cyclists swerving, riding while intoxicated, on a cell phone, whatever, or maybe they are doing what they're supposed to do. They're on the right side of the road, but instead of scanning, signaling, and taking the lane one lane at a time to move over, they just need to make a left and they shoot out into traffic. Never a good idea. So if we do or don't do a few things,
Just a time check.
we ride on the right side of the road, we stop at stop signs, we're predictable, use hand signals, we have eliminated pretty much 50% of all car-bike collisions. Okay, I'm told I have 5 minutes. Almost done. So what about motorists? When we talk to adults, I've heard more than once somebody say, you know, I'd love to ride to work, or I'd love to ride more with my kids, but I just can't get over that fear I have of traffic coming up from behind me. Statistically, it's not something that you need to worry about. Most accidents or collisions that are caused by motorists happen for one of two reasons. A motorist is either making a left in front of a cyclist, or they're doing what the picture shows here, what we call a right hook, where they've sped up, maybe tried to overtake the cyclist, and then for whatever reason, they're whipping into the driveway or whipping into the parking lot. That 13 and 11% adds up to 24. That's half of all collisions where the motorist is at fault. So if we look out for those few things, and then we do the things on the banner, we have eliminated the vast, vast majority of all the reasons for all car-bike accidents, and we have made ourselves much safer as cyclists, and statistically, cycling then becomes safer than driving. So that's the intent in a nutshell of our bike and traffic safety program. Let me exit out of this again. Everybody sees me in the banner?
Great.
Okay. So here's the takeaway. Ride on the right side of the road. Stop at stop signs. In all honesty, in Ukiah, we have a lot of four-way stops. If I'm coming home on my bike and it's 8:30 on a Tuesday night and there's nobody around, do I always come to a complete stop? I might roll through it a little bit. But what I do always do is I always slow down, I always look, and I always, 100% of the time, wait my turn. If there's another car or pedestrian there, even if they're waving me on, like they often do because they've seen so many other cyclists blow through the intersection, even if they're waving me on, I slow down, I stop, and I put my foot down. Once I put my foot down, everybody knows that guy's stopping, and then they go, and that's what I want. I want them to go so I can go. Be predictable, don't ride like a squirrel. 4th and 5th graders always remember that one. The best way to be predictable is use hand signals. They're magic on a bike. Use them and watch how, along with making eye contact and scanning, use them and watch how motorists react to you. I think, I've been riding a lot the last 10 years around town. I think part of the reason that tension starts to build and I'll feel a car creeping up on me Everybody's in a hurry nowadays. And if I'm at a stop sign, I feel that car kind of creeping up because the motorist is thinking, this guy doesn't know I'm here. He's going to slow me down for 2 seconds, and I got to get up really close to him. If I just turn around and make eye contact with them, that car always backs off. They know that I know that they're there. And then better yet, I go like this, and they know, okay, he knows I'm here, and he's making a right turn. And it all seems to diffuse things a little bit. Lastly, always wear a helmet. That's last on the list for a reason. We tell 4th and 5th graders there's 2 good reasons to always wear a helmet. One, in the state of California, it's the law. If you're under 18, you legally have to have a helmet on. It is citable, but it's often not enforced. The better reason, and we do this with 4th graders and adults, is we get our knuckles ready, and we're often out on the blacktop, and we tap the pavement. And you only have to do that once or twice, and you'll hear 30 or 40 4th graders go, ow. And that's the point. The pavement is hard. Your heads are not. That's the better reason, a more important reason to always wear a helmet.
Eric, I think we're at time, and
I can stop
I
now.
Great.
I can put a helmet on.
Yeah, you've made your case beautifully. Thank you. Yeah, big round of applause.
All right.
Thank you so much,
Okay.
Eric. And Mo, I hope it's okay if I just check in. If anybody has any questions for Eric, please do put them in the chat. We can always try and return to things too. We haven't seen any there yet, but Eric, I have to say, you're such an inspiration to us. You know, the way you use your bike is just part of your life. It's not